Hello, my name is Anthony Navarro, and I was tasked with recreating a mechanic one of my fellow classmates came up with here at Full Sail. It was called Weighted Boxes and Pressure Plates by Issac Drake. And this was a interesting mechanic that went ahead and meshed with my own original mechanic, which is temporal rewind, and I can go ahead and show it here right now. If I go ahead, try pushing the various boxes, some are heavier and some are lighter. So, self-explanatory, some of the boxes are lighter. I even indicated that by size. So the smallest box is smaller, medium box, medium, and the biggest box is bigger. Also indicated by color. Red is being most heavy, most difficult to carry, and blue being the lightest, and white being the somewhere in between. So, I also decided to implement and added on to this mechanic that if you push the boxes, they have various different distances that they can move based on their weight. So if you can guess here, I push this box to the third space away from me, and if I push a smaller box, it'll go ahead and push it one lane further, and with this box being it's the heaviest box, you can go ahead and push it, consuming also the most stamina, how my classmate originally intended, and even activating the wind uh, tile over here. So if I go ahead and reset this real quick, I cannot win unless I activate these boxes. Some of these are a bit redundant just to show. I can activate this one, right? And this one, and you can choose. I have it in the blueprints that you can choose which ones you need to go ahead and activate this thing. I have the ones activating this one, but if you go ahead and step off, it'll be activated. There's a nice effect to showcase that that particular wind tile is now activated. So go ahead and push that, and this is just simplest level, just to show. You can now win. Alright, and on to level 2. This is where I decided to implement or showcase my original ability, and which is called temporal rewind. If you notice in the bottom right, you can press T and rewind things, but you need to go ahead and push a box. I have an indicated green box over here that you pressed it, but in order to solve this, you have to be a little bit clever with your rewinds. It is not easy to someone, most likely, who's not used to this ability. But if you go ahead and try to rewind while on the tile, it'll tell you you cannot be standing on the tile. So, in order to actually get through here, you're gonna have to step off the axis or off the tile. You could even step here technically, but problem is, if you do step here, you need to activate this in order to proceed. This is another showcasing of my original sprints that went ahead and implemented doors based on those pressure plates. So if you activate one, the other door goes down. But without further ado, let's go ahead and rewind that box I just pushed, and it goes ahead and pulls it back. And now you can go ahead and activate this. Problem being, you can't get through here. There's another door and another area you need to go ahead and navigate in order to get this box through. So, in order to do this, you need to rewind again. And now you can go ahead and push this box here, which opens this door. And if you haven't guessed, if you try to press T now, you can't just rewind this box that's in front of my guy here. You will actually end up pushing the last box that you rewinded. So you have to keep this box here and then go ahead and come push this one again. Get a nice little area, rewind, push it back, and you finally can breeze on through. Right here, I decided to make it a little bit easier. Just go ahead and push the box onto the indicated platform. You can see the pressure plate indicates it has a black outline and it is colored red as well. So you know which pressure plates activate by which boxes because each box also has a specific pressure plate that it has to go onto. I could bother to try to get this lighter box onto the black one, but it would be rather difficult being where it's particularly located and the sliding. The thing is, now I can't activate this unless I have a box on here. So, only way to really do this is go ahead and push it. And a cool thing that actually ended up happening was if you go ahead and push this box here, I I took this from another um of my fellow classmates that helped me with the code by via their presentation, but I wanted these boxes to go ahead and not fall completely off. So if you push this against the void, it shouldn't fall off unless you try to go and push it again. So all you got to do now, step on through, go ahead and rewind, and now breeze right through. And in this area, I go ahead and make use of my temporal rewind as well as my weighted boxes and even added some teleportation circles in here just for an added challenge. So this one isn't too difficult. Push it, get this out of the way here, and then you can go ahead and I believe if you teleport to this one, step off of it, rewind that back, and then come and push this one off, it will go ahead and activate one of the doors. Because I also have it so those pressure plates can activate and close certain gates, but they also can just open or close one gate. So, in order to actually solve this, you need to go ahead and push this off. And then if you push this here, you might run out of stamina in this level because it's a little bit more difficult. So I'll show, if you just push that there, oh, this box will move all the way here and it won't be in line with the button that you need it to be in line with so you can go ahead and complete the level. So what you actually need to do with this big box here is push this so it stops the movement of that box, and then because of the nature of the pit tiles you can go ahead and push this small weighted box, and with your last bit of stamina make a clearing and make for the other teleporter, which is now activated the wind tile indicated by the actual wind you can hear. And that's it for all my 3 levels, and goes ahead and loops back to the beginning. So how these weighted boxes and pressure plates work are actually quite simple. I do have a BPI communicating with the doors. Mainly the pressure plates actually do communicate with doors. But for the pressure plates and the boxes, there honestly was pretty simple. All I have in the weighted boxes is a different variable based on how much weight they have. So I did try implementing a bunch of other ways to make this function be a struct so I can have one blueprint and have it change based on the struct if I needed it to be heavy, light, and so on. But because I couldn't get it to spawn properly, I actually ended up just going with something a lot more simple, adding the weight, and the weight was basically dependent on just the stamina. and that was it. So the required stamina here being 10 for the regular box, and it's basically all the same for all the other boxes. Is the heavy box basically just has a stamina requirement that is heavier. So that is basically afflicting the weight, so to speak. But also to indicate weight on these boxes, I do have some other interesting code that is called move extra spaces to give it some actual weight. So I actually got this from my one of my other classmates where their code logic was pretty sound. I just had to make some adjustments so I could do it a certain amount of times based on basically the box's weight. So this being the regular box, I actually go ahead and call move extra spaces up here once I have done my temporal rewind code on that box, and then I get the neighbor, check if it's valid, check if it's enterable, and if I can't, if it is, we move it to the tile, and then we go ahead and delay. And based on this information, that's getting the neighbor's class and it not being the pit tile, we can keep moving it only a certain amount of times, like because this will go ahead and loop, but I only want it to loop a certain amount of time so it can move extra spaces. This box has, for example, it can move one extra space, so it can only do n one amount of times. If I go over here to the heavy one, the only difference being this one can move 0 times, and if I were to go to the light one over here, this one can move 2 extra times. So that is basically showcasing the weight and how much they can slide based on the required stamina and how many extra boxes or how many times I looped it this time. It showcases the weight of the actual box. And now moving on to the pressure plates. The pressure plates, again, I have actually 3 of them. So I can go ahead and place however many I want. And it's actually a little bit simple with this tile mode. It ended up working really well, so I could plan my level layouts and know which pressure plates are required when. So I do have a regular weight, heavyweight, and lightweight. And again, there's not much difference between these three because the pressure plates are actually just they're checking the main thing is this function here which I created called check for entity. It is getting the entering entity and then going ahead and checking if it's a player or if it's a specific um, functional or the specific box that you need in order to get this pressure plate to function or work or click. And it just goes ahead and passes it through. And if it is the correct box, it plays a nice sound. It changes the material of the button. It checks if the primary door is valid because this is again indicating this is for my doors. And I wanted it to function where you can go ahead and assign whatever doors you wanted to, at least two, and there's a primary door and a secondary door. If you don't want a second door and you just want it to function with one door, you leave secondary door unassigned, and with these valid checks, it doesn't affect anything. But if you do want to, it will go ahead and use these valid checks and then go run it through the BPI, letting know the door has to go ahead and run open or close its doors. But that's it for all the logic. I honestly probably made it a little bit more complicated than it had to be, I did run into some issues where creating so many assets and so many different kinds of assets did get kind of tedious to manage. I feel like that was my main issue is not really understanding too much of the structure I should be going about things consistently. Or I guess consistency with that practice because I do understand the structure that I have to be creating things that are modular in the sense where I can edit one parent BP and then stack the changes across the board. But because I didn't do that, I genuinely lost a bunch of time just micromanaging the systems to make sure they all looked similar or look similar but different enough to distinguish subtle design differences. So again, these boxes being different sizes, different colors, and even indicating different glows. I had to go ahead and create material instances for each, resize each, and do a bunch of things that I could have otherwise not had to do if I had just created a proper parent.